The reason everything is falling apart now, and why Zelensky is facing a perfect storm on three sides, is because there has been a regime change in Washington, D.C. Ukraine has lost the support of the United States. And as I've been saying for months, I had the strong impression that the Russians and the Americans were holding secret negotiations. It always felt like, behind the scenes, Washington and Moscow were reaching some kind of quiet understanding. All the public drama, Trump saying he negotiated with Putin but was disappointed, then threatening sanctions, then promising weapons to Ukraine. Now looks like political theater meant for domestic audiences. And as we're starting to learn, the U.S. and Russia have likely struck a new peace arrangement, one that not only ends the war in Ukraine, but completely reshapes Europe's security architecture. A radical departure from the last 70 years. What he's really saying is this: Ukraine didn't lose the war, it lost America's backing. Once Washington steps away, the rest is just noise. The real decisions were probably made long before the public ever heard a word. Meanwhile, in Washington, there has been a subtle political attack on Zelensky. Publicly, Western leaders treat him like a hero. But behind the scenes, they have been slowly cutting him down. The real danger to Zelensky hasn't been Russia. It has been his own allies investigating him. When he attempted to shut down the anti-corruption agency NABU by decree, the cracks in that friendship became impossible to hide. It wasn't support. It was a warning shot. The corruption investigation revealed massive wrongdoing by Zelensky's circle, and pretending he didn't know about it is unrealistic. NABU was controlled by the U.S., and though it was created to fight corruption, its real purpose was likely the opposite: to protect certain Western-connected individuals whose families had lucrative deals in Ukraine. Biden, Kerry, Pelosi all had relatives benefiting from highly questionable arrangements. NABU created a protective shield, not accountability. But when Trump took office, the anti-corruption agency suddenly began doing its job for real. Zelensky panicked and tried to disband it, but it was too late. The U.S. still effectively controlled Ukraine, and the corruption details leaked into the Ukrainian press. People were disgusted. The army's morale collapsed. Soldiers didn't want to die in muddy trenches to protect corrupt war profiteers. That's why surrender after surrender has taken place. A nation loses a war the moment it stops believing in it. He argues that Europe will be involved in the new security arrangement, but not as equal participants. They will be forced to sign on to whatever Washington and Moscow decide. Passengers, not drivers. For decades, Europe lived inside a British-style balance of power architecture, a system designed not for security, but for managed instability. Crisis after crisis. Yugoslavia, Greece, and Turkey. Poland antagonizing Germany and Russia. Tensions between France and Italy. All the cracks beneath Europe's so-called unity. And this model wasn't limited to Europe. British geopolitical strategy left long-term crisis zones everywhere. India, Pakistan, Armenia, Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Lebanon, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Iran, North, South Korea, China, Taiwan. A chain of engineered flashpoints, ready to ignite whenever needed. The entire system is built on permanent, reusable crisis, not peace. If Russia, the U.S., China, Iran, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization replace this architecture with a genuine peace framework, the continent might finally shift from permanent war to something closer to permanent peace. He reminds us that Ukraine experienced a coup in 2014, followed by a civil war. The new regime in Kyiv tried to force control over the Donbass, the region containing roughly 80% of the nation's GDP, coal, gas, metallurgy, major industry. Western sponsors pushed Ukraine to seize it, triggering the civil war. Yet in 2014, the U.S. under Obama refused to intervene militarily because they understood Russia had escalatory dominance, meaning America would lose if it tried to fight Russia there. In 2022, Russia struck first, and he argues this was not unprovoked. It followed years of deliberate, calculated provocation. NATO under Biden attempted to build a united front against Russia, but Moscow refused to give them a pretext to intervene directly. The mistake was starting this conflict at all. Obama knew better, but the Biden administration wasn't really run by Biden. It was run by ideological neocons like Victoria Nuland, Blinken, and Sullivan. Their objective was simple: trap Russia in a quagmire like Afghanistan, bleed it economically, and trigger regime collapse. But the plan failed. Russia avoided the trap, the quagmire never materialized, and the regime didn't fall. Instead, the West is now dealing with the consequences of its own miscalculations. In the end, he is saying this: the war wasn't about defending Ukraine. It was about attempting to break Russia. And now, the entire strategy is collapsing.